I stood alone at Elaine's grave as rain began to fall, the finality of 43 years of marriage hitting me like a physical blow. The other mourners had drifted away, leaving me with my crushing grief. Then Amanda appeared beside me, her face wearing an expression I couldn't quite place. She placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "Dad, you don't need that old car anymore. You barely drive these days." The cold calculation in his voice chilled me more than the thought of the surgeon's blade against my chest. I awoke to the steady beeping of hospital monitors and the sterile smell of disinfectant. My chest felt like someone had parked a truck on it, but according to Dr. Peterson, my heart valve replacement had gone perfectly. 68 years old, and I'd gotten my ticker upgraded. Not bad for Channing Moore, former owner of Moore Construction. "Dad, you're awake." Tyler stood from the chair in the corner, relief washing over his face. At 38, my son had my height and build, but not much else. Where I'd spent my life building things, he seemed dedicated to tearing his life apart with bad choices. How long was I out? My voice sounded like I'd gargled with sandpaper. About 6 hours. Surgery went great. He poured me a cup of water, holding the straw to my lips. This attentiveness was new. Our relationship had always been strained, especially after his mother passed 10 years ago. While I built my construction company from nothing into a regional powerhouse, Tyler bounced between jobs, relationships, and get-rich-quick schemes. "Sarah sends her love," he said, mentioning my daughter who lived in Oregon with her family. "She wanted to come, but with the kids and her job. It's fine. I understand." Unlike her brother, Sarah had always been responsible, stable. But with 3 children and a demanding career as a pediatric nurse 2,000 miles away, I couldn't expect her to drop everything for a planned surgery. Over the next 3 days, Tyler surprised me with his dedication. He was there every morning when I woke up, brought me decent coffee instead of the hospital sludge, and even charmed the nurses into giving me extra pudding cups. He asked detailed questions during the doctor's visits and took notes about my medication schedule. "You know, Dad," he said on the 3rd day, "I've been thinking. You're going to need help when you get home. Bills, errands, keeping track of medications. I could handle all that for you while you recover." The offer caught me off guard. Tyler had never been one to volunteer for responsibility. "That's thoughtful of you, son. You just sold the business, right? $2.3 million after taxes? That's a lot to manage while you're recovering." An alarm bell rang faintly in my mind. How did he know the exact amount? I'd kept the details of the sale private. "I've got it under control," I said cautiously. "The money's safely invested. But day-to-day stuff, Dad. Online banking, bills, insurance claims from the surgery. Let me help. That's what family's for." Before I could respond, Nurse Patty came in to check my vitals. Tyler excused himself to get coffee. As she wrapped the blood pressure cuff around my arm, Patty spoke quietly. "Mr. Moore, I don't mean to overstep, but I've been doing this for 27 years. When family suddenly gets interested in finances after major surgery, especially with older patients," she trailed off meaningfully. "Tyler's just trying to help," I said defensively. "I'm sure he is. Just be careful who gets access to your accounts. We see financial exploitation more often than you'd think." She patted my arm. Just some friendly advice. After she left, I lay thinking. The memory of Tyler photographing my cards before surgery floated back through the medication haze. As a precaution, I downloaded my bank's mobile app and set up alerts for any transactions over $100. On discharge day, Tyler helped me into his car and drove me home to the house I'd lived in for 40 years. He'd stocked the refrigerator, picked up my prescriptions, and even arranged pillows on the couch so I could sit comfortably. "Dad, we should go through your bills and accounts so I can help manage things while you recover," he said as he made us sandwiches for lunch. "The doctor said no stress, remember? Financial worries are the last thing you need." "I suppose that makes sense," I said slowly. "My checking account password is MooreCon1985, the year I started the business. You can use that to pay the utilities and house expenses." Tyler tried to hide his disappointment. What about your investment accounts? Retirement funds? I could make sure everything's properly balanced. Those are handled by my financial advisor. Don't worry about them. Later that afternoon, while Tyler thought I was napping, my phone buzzed with a notification. Transfer of $50,000 from savings account to checking account. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I hadn't authorized any transfers. Through the living room doorway, I could see Tyler hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, typing rapidly. My first instinct was confrontation, but something held me back. A cold curiosity took its place. How far would he go? What was his endgame? Instead of exposing him immediately, I decided to watch and wait. If this was truly who my son had become, I needed to know the full extent of his betrayal. Over the next week, I played the role of grateful, slightly confused father. I moved slowly, complained about pain, and appeared to sleep frequently. All the while, I monitored my accounts and observed my son's behavior with increasing dismay. The $50,000 was just the beginning. Every day brought new unauthorized transfers. Tyler moved money from my savings into checking, then withdrew it in amounts just under $10,000, presumably to avoid triggering bank reporting requirements. His behavior shifted subtly. The attentive son who'd spent every moment at the hospital was disappearing. He made frequent excuses to leave the house, took phone calls in the backyard, and seemed perpetually distracted. When present, he overcompensated with exaggerated concern. "Dad, you look tired. Should I call the doctor? Maybe you need to rest more." This was usually followed by, "I can handle everything. Why don't you take a sleeping pill and get some real rest?" I declined the sleeping pills, but pretended to need more help than I actually did. This strategy kept Tyler close, where I could observe him. 10 days after my surgery, I called Frank Peterson, my friend of 40 years who happened to be a senior vice president at Lincoln Trust Bank. "Channing, good to hear from you. How's recovery going?" Frank's booming voice was comforting in its familiarity. "Physically, I'm improving. But I've got a situation I need your help with, discreetly." "Of course. What's going on?" "It's about my accounts. I need to know exactly what's happening with them, but I don't want any calls coming to the house or statements being mailed." Frank's voice turned serious. "Is something wrong?" "Just looking into some unusual activity. Can you help?" "Come by the bank tomorrow. I'll have everything ready." The next day, I told Tyler I had a follow-up doctor's appointment. I called a car service. "No need for you to waste your day in a waiting room." Tyler seemed relieved. "Great idea, Dad. Text me when you're done." Instead of the doctor's office, I directed the driver to Lincoln Trust Bank. Frank was waiting for me in his office, a manila folder on his desk, and concern etched on his face. "Channing, what's going on? I pulled all your transaction records for the past 2 weeks, and frankly, I'm worried." He opened the folder to reveal pages of account activity. Multiple large withdrawals, balance transfers, even attempts to access my investment accounts. $170,000 total, Frank said gravely. "All transferred to your checking account, then withdrawn in cash or moved to an account at First National under the name Tyler Moore Consulting. There were also attempts to access your investment portfolio, but those required additional verification that wasn't provided." I felt sick. "The investment accounts hold most of the business sale proceeds." "There's more," Frank continued. "Someone called trying to access your safe deposit box yesterday, said they were your son, and had power of attorney because you were incapacitated after surgery. When we asked for documentation, they said they'd come in person. The safe deposit box contained family heirlooms and my late wife's jewelry collection, which was meant for Sarah. Did he come in?" "Not yet. I've flagged your accounts and placed a hold on the box. Nothing more can be withdrawn without my personal approval. But Channing, if this is what I think it is, you need to consider your options carefully." I nodded, thoughts churning. "Thank you, Frank. Keep everything as is for now. I need to see how far this goes." That evening, while Tyler was out, I searched his room. In his briefcase, I found gambling receipts, overdue tax notices, and collection letters for failed business ventures I'd never known about. My son was deeply in debt. I also discovered a medical power of attorney form, with what appeared to be my signature at the bottom. Except, I'd never signed such a document. The forgery was close but not perfect, missing the slight upward curve I always put on the final G in Channing. When Tyler returned home that night, he wasn't alone. A young woman accompanied him, no more than 25, with carefully styled blonde hair and designer clothes that seemed to be wearing her rather than the other way around. "Dad, you're up. Good. I want you to meet Amanda, my girlfriend." Tyler's smile seemed forced. "Amanda, this is my father, Channing." Amanda extended a manicured hand. "So nice to finally meet you, Mr. Moore. Tyler talks about you constantly. Does he now? All good things, I hope." I smiled pleasantly while noting how her eyes darted around the room, assessing its contents. "Of course. He's so concerned about your health. We both are." Over dinner, which Amanda barely touched, I listened as they discussed vacations to Tahiti, a new Mercedes Tyler was considering, and beachfront property in Florida. From their conversation, anyone would think my son was a wealthy businessman rather than someone with creditors breathing down his neck. After Amanda left, I pretended to turn in early but sat in darkness by my bedroom window. I watched Tyler walk her to her car, their conversation becoming animated once they thought they were alone. "When are you going to get the money?" I could read Amanda's lips clearly in the porch light. "You promised we'd go house hunting this week." "Soon," Tyler replied tensely. "There were some unexpected delays with the old man's accounts. But I'll have it all sorted in a few days. Trust me." The next morning, Frank called. Tyler came in asking about the safe deposit box. Claimed he had power of attorney. When we asked to verify the document and called our legal department, he got nervous and left. That afternoon, I feigned a headache and retired to my room. Through the air vent, I could hear Tyler and Amanda in the living room below. "The jewelry alone is worth at least $50,000, Tyler was saying. "Once I get the old man declared incompetent, I'll have access to everything. The house, the accounts, all of it." "How long will that take?" Amanda asked. "Not long. He's already confused half the time. After surgery, lots of elderly patients develop cognitive issues. The doctors call it post-operative cognitive dysfunction, completely normal." He seemed pretty sharp at dinner. "He has good days and bad days. Trust me, he's declining fast. And with the medication I've been giving him, he'll seem confused enough when the doctor evaluates him." I felt cold rage building in my chest. My own son was drugging me, planning to have me declared incompetent. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. That night, I carefully flushed my evening pills down the toilet after pretending to take them. Then I called Sarah from my bedroom, speaking quietly. "Dad? Is everything okay? It's late there." "Not really, honey. I need to talk to you about your brother." After my conversation with Sarah, the full scope of Tyler's betrayal became clear. He'd been telling her that I was rapidly declining mentally, forgetting conversations, becoming paranoid. He'd convinced her my stubbornness was preventing me from accepting the help I needed. "He calls me every few days with updates," Sarah explained, her voice tight with worry. "He said you accused the mailman of stealing from you, and that you tried to drive yourself to the store even though your doctor prohibited it." "None of that happened," I assured her. "I'm perfectly lucid. The surgery went well, and I'm recovering according to schedule." Sarah's relief was palpable. "Oh, thank God. But why would Tyler say those things?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out. Has he mentioned anything about my finances or asked you to sign any documents?" "He sent some paperwork about updating your will and advance directives. Said it was standard procedure after major surgery. I told him I'd need to review it carefully first." "Good. Don't sign anything. And Sarah, I need you to keep acting like you believe him for now. Can you do that?" "Dad, what's going on? You're scaring me." "I'll explain everything soon. Just trust me for now." The next day, I began exaggerating symptoms of confusion and weakness whenever Tyler was around. I'd pause mid-sentence as if losing my train of thought, ask the same question twice, or stare vacantly out the window. Tyler ate it up, exchanging knowing glances with Amanda when they thought I wasn't looking. Through careful observation and strategic eavesdropping, I pieced together their plan. Tyler had been systematically laying groundwork to have me declared mentally incompetent. He'd told neighbors, distant relatives, even my former business associates that I was experiencing cognitive decline. Meanwhile, I discovered empty spaces in my late wife's jewelry box. Several valuable pieces were missing, including her engagement ring. I found pawn tickets in Tyler's coat pocket for these heirlooms, along with a business card for an attorney specializing in guardianship cases. When I checked my security system, I discovered Tyler had been bringing friends over while I was supposedly sleeping. They treated my home like a party venue, using my good scotch and cigars while discussing how they'd help Tyler spend his inheritance. 2 weeks after my surgery, Tyler announced that he'd made a doctor's appointment for me. "It's just a follow-up, Dad. Dr. Winters wants to check your incision and make sure you're healing properly." I nodded agreeably, while noting that Dr. Winters wasn't my surgeon or cardiologist. A quick internet search revealed he specialized in geriatric psychiatry. The morning of the appointment, Tyler prepared tea, insisting it would calm my nerves. "You seem anxious about the doctor, Dad. This will help." I accepted the cup, noting the slight residue at the bottom. While Tyler stepped outside to take a call, I poured the drugged tea into a potted plant and replaced it with regular tea from the kitchen. Dr. Winters was a stern-faced man with wire-rimmed glasses who watched me carefully as Tyler led me into the office. "Mr. Moore, I'm Dr. Winters. Your son tells me you've been experiencing some confusion since your surgery." "Has he?" I feel perfectly clear-headed. I sat up straight, making direct eye contact. Tyler jumped in. "Dad, remember how you couldn't find your glasses yesterday? They were on your head the whole time." I smiled. "That happens to everyone occasionally, doesn't it, Doctor?" Tyler continued listing incidents, growing increasingly frustrated as I calmly explained or refuted each one. Dr. Winters observed our interaction with professional detachment. "Mr. Moore, would you mind if I asked you some questions alone?" the doctor finally requested. "Not at all." Tyler hesitated. "I should stay. Dad gets confused when I'm not around." "It's standard procedure," Dr. Winters insisted. Once Tyler reluctantly left, the doctor's demeanor softened slightly. "Mr. Moore, I want to administer a brief cognitive assessment, if that's all right with you." "Of course." The test was simple, asking me to remember 3 objects, draw a clock, spell words backward, and answer questions about current events. I completed it flawlessly. "Your son seems quite concerned about your mental status," Dr. Winters said carefully. "Yet I'm not seeing evidence of significant cognitive impairment." "Doctor, may I speak frankly?" He nodded. "I believe my son is attempting to have me declared incompetent to gain control of my assets. He's been transferring money from my accounts without permission and has even forged documents." The doctor's eyebrows rose. "That's a serious allegation. I have documentation. What I don't have is a clear understanding of why he brought me to you today." Dr. Winters hesitated, then opened his desk drawer and produced a form. "Your son asked me to complete this competency evaluation. It would be the first step toward establishing a guardianship." When Tyler was called back in, his expectant expression fell as the doctor explained that he found no evidence of cognitive impairment and would not be signing the form. "But he gets confused all the time at home," Tyler insisted, his voice rising. "He forgets conversations we've had. Sometimes he doesn't even recognize me." "Mr. Moore scored within normal ranges on all cognitive assessments," Dr. Winters stated firmly. "I see no medical basis for the concerns you've expressed." Tyler's face flushed with anger. "You didn't spend enough time with him. He puts on a good show for strangers." "I've been practicing geriatric psychiatry for 27 years, the doctor replied coolly. "I believe I can distinguish between cognitive impairment and normal functioning." On the drive home, Tyler gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "That doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. We'll get a second opinion." I gazed out the window, finally accepting the devastating truth. My son was literally waiting for me to die, or be declared incompetent, so he could take everything I'd spent a lifetime building. The thought sent a sharp pain through my chest that had nothing to do with my recent surgery. When we arrived home, I found a small recording device taped under the kitchen table. Reviewing it later in private, I heard Tyler and Amanda discussing their frustration with my stubbornly refusing to die and debating stronger methods to make me appear incapacitated. That night, I felt a strange sense of calm descend as I made a decision. If Tyler wanted a fight, I would give him one, and unlike my son, I played to win. The next morning, I called Martin Levinson, my attorney for over 30 years, and arranged to meet him at his office while Tyler was out. "This is troubling, Channing. Very troubling indeed." Martin adjusted his glasses as he reviewed the evidence I'd gathered. Bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, photos of the forged power of attorney, recordings of Tyler's conversations, and a list of missing items from my home. "What are my options?" I asked. Martin sighed heavily. "Several, none of them pleasant. We could contact Adult Protective Services and report elder abuse. We could file criminal charges for theft and fraud. Or we could handle this civilly through an injunction and lawsuit to recover the stolen funds." I stared out the window at the city skyline. "He's still my son, Martin. I understand. But what he's doing is criminal. And from what you've told me, he's escalating. Next time he might succeed in having you declared incompetent or worse." The unspoken implication hung in the air between us. "Give me some time," I said finally. "I want to see if there's a way to resolve this that doesn't end with my son in prison." Back at home, I implemented my counterplan. I ordered discrete security cameras for my home office and living room, positioning them to capture any further evidence of Tyler's activities. I withdrew $5,000 from a separate account Tyler didn't know about and stored it in my bedroom safe, replacing the combination with one he couldn't guess. I contacted Bill Harrington, my former business partner, and briefed him on the situation. Bill was appropriately outraged, "That ungrateful little. After everything you've done for him." Bill had known Tyler since he was a boy, had even given him summer jobs at our construction sites, which Tyler invariably quit within weeks. "I need a witness, Bill. Someone to document his behavior and my mental state. Would you be willing to stop by regularly? Maybe join us for dinner sometimes?" "Of course. Whatever you need." I also arranged for Sarah to fly home secretly, staying with my neighbor Martha rather than at the house. Having her witness Tyler's behavior firsthand would be crucial if things escalated to legal action. Meanwhile, Tyler grew increasingly impatient with my recovery and continued lucidity. The pills he thought I was taking should have left me confused and compliant. Instead, I remained clear-eyed and increasingly independent, which visibly frustrated him. 17 days after my surgery, I experienced concerning heart palpitations. Whether from stress or a genuine complication, I couldn't be sure. But the episodes were frightening enough to warrant medical attention. Dr. Peterson admitted me to the hospital for overnight observation. "Just a precaution," he assured me. "Your heart is healing well, but with valve replacements, we don't take chances." Tyler seemed almost gleeful about this setback, immediately contacting Dr. Winters to report my deteriorating condition. I overheard him in the hallway, embellishing symptoms and claiming I'd been found wandering the neighborhood in my bathrobe. Pure fiction, but delivered with such conviction that even I almost believed it. While in the hospital, Sarah visited secretly, slipping into my room after Tyler left for the evening. "Dad, this is worse than I imagined." Her eyes were red from crying. "I talked to the neighbors, your friends. Tyler's been telling everyone you're losing your mind." "I know, sweetheart." "Why? How could he do this to you? To us?" I squeezed her hand. "People in desperate situations make desperate choices. Your brother has debts he can't pay, and a girlfriend with expensive tastes. He sees my money as the easy solution." The night I returned home from the hospital, I discovered something truly disturbing. Reviewing footage from my hidden cameras, I watched Tyler systematically searching my office, photographing documents, and most alarmingly, recording our conversations on his phone, then playing them back while editing out portions to make my responses sound confused and disjointed. "Perfect," he muttered on the recording as he spliced together clips of my voice. "This will convince any judge." The next morning, Frank called with alarming news. "Tyler filed an emergency petition for guardianship yesterday while you were in the hospital. He's claiming you're mentally incompetent due to post-surgical complications and cognitive decline. There's a court date set for next Wednesday." My blood ran cold. "He's moving faster than I expected. It gets worse. He attempted to liquidate your investment accounts yesterday using electronic signature documents. When our system flagged it for verification, he provided a doctor's note claiming you were physically unable to come to the bank. The note was supposedly from Dr. Peterson, but when we called to verify, the office had no record of issuing it." "What did you do?" "We've placed a complete freeze on all your accounts pending investigation." Tyler was furious. Caused quite a scene in the lobby. I thanked Frank and hung up, my mind racing. Tyler had moved nearly $800,000 already. The court hearing was less than a week away. If he succeeded in being named my guardian, he'd have complete control over everything I owned. The time for watching and waiting was over. I needed to confront this head-on, with all the evidence I'd gathered. The realization was painful but clear. My own son had declared war on me, and I had no choice but to fight back. Tyler stormed into the house that afternoon, slamming the door behind him. His carefully maintained facade of caring son had vanished completely. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded, throwing his keys onto the counter with such force they skidded across and fell to the floor. "The bank froze all the accounts." I looked up calmly from my newspaper. "Did they? How strange. Don't play dumb with me. Did you call them? Tell them not to let me access your money?" "My money," I emphasized quietly. "Not yours, Tyler. Mine." His face contorted with rage. "You don't need it. You're almost 70, for Christ's sake. What are you going to do with $2 million? Buy a fancy coffin?" The naked greed and entitlement in his voice shocked me, despite everything I'd already discovered. That money represents my life's work. 40 years of building a business from nothing. It's meant to secure my retirement and leave something for both my children when I'm gone, which I don't plan to be anytime soon. Tyler paced the kitchen like a caged animal. "You don't understand. I need that money now, not 20 years from now when you finally kick the bucket. For your gambling debts?" I asked quietly. He froze. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the debts, Tyler. The failed business ventures, the tax liens, the people you owe money to. You've been snooping through my things." His voice rose incredulously. "Like you've been snooping through mine, stealing from me, trying to have me declared incompetent." I stood slowly. "Yes, I've been investigating you, just as you've been plotting against me. The difference is, my investigation was justified." For a moment, Tyler seemed at a loss for words. Then his expression shifted from anger to a calculated desperation. "Dad, you don't understand. I'm in trouble. Serious trouble." His tone became plaintive. "I owe money to people you don't want to be involved with. They're threatening me. That's why I needed the cash so urgently." "So your solution was to steal from me? To try to have me locked away in a nursing home?" I was desperate. I still am. Tyler ran his hands through his hair. "These aren't people who take no for an answer. They'll hurt me, maybe worse." "Then perhaps you should have thought of that before gambling away money you didn't have." "For God's sake, Dad, we're talking about my life here. All I need is another 100,000 to clear the immediate debts. You can spare that much. You wouldn't even miss it. And what about the 700,000 you've already taken? Was that all for gambling debts too?" Tyler had the grace to look momentarily ashamed. "Not all of it. But that's not important now. What matters is that I need your help. I need you to call the bank, tell them to lift the freeze, and authorize a transfer. Today." "No." The single word hung in the air between us. "What do you mean, no? Did you not hear what I just said? These people will break my legs, or worse." "I heard you. But I don't believe you'll use the money to pay debts. I think you'll run. Disappear with Amanda and my money." Before Tyler could respond, the front door opened, and Amanda walked in without knocking. Her usual carefully composed appearance was disheveled, her mascara smudged as if she'd been crying. "Tyler? What's happening? Why was your card declined at Nordstrom? I was standing there with 6 bags of clothes, and they called me a fraud." Her voice rose hysterically. "Amanda, not now," Tyler hissed. She noticed me and froze. "Oh, Mr. Moore, I didn't know you were." "Feeling better. Apparently not as badly as my son has been telling people," I replied dryly. Tyler grabbed Amanda's arm and pulled her into the kitchen, where they argued in fierce whispers. I could hear enough to understand that Tyler had promised to take her shopping for a whole new wardrobe today, part of the lavish lifestyle he'd been financing with my money. Their argument was interrupted by the doorbell. Tyler walked to the window and peered out, his face draining of color. "Oh shit. Oh shit, they're here." "Who's here?" Amanda asked. "The guys I told you about. From the casino." Tyler's voice shook. He turned to me, genuine fear in his eyes. "Dad, please. Go upstairs. Lock yourself in your room. Don't come down no matter what you hear." The doorbell rang again, followed by heavy knocking. "Open up, Tyler. We know you're in there," a deep voice called. Tyler looked at me pleadingly. "Dad, I'm begging you. These guys are serious. If I don't pay them something today, they're going to hurt me." I considered my options quickly. If these men were truly dangerous, the situation could escalate beyond my control. Yet this might be the wake-up call Tyler needed. "Let them in," I said firmly. "Let's hear what they have to say." Tyler cursed under his breath but opened the door. 2 men entered, both in their 30s, wearing expensive but tasteless clothing. The larger one, bald with a thick neck and forearms covered in tattoos, scanned the room with cold eyes before settling his gaze on Tyler. "You've been avoiding my calls, Tyler." "Not smart." "Vince, I can explain," Tyler began, his voice placating. "There was a slight delay with the funds, but I'm working it out." "A delay." Vince's voice was dangerously soft. "You promised payment in full by today. Said you were coming into a large inheritance any day now. That was 2 weeks ago. And I will. My father's money is just temporarily tied up in some legal stuff." Vince noticed me sitting calmly in my recliner. "This, your old man? The one who's supposed to be checking out soon?" Tyler blanched. "I never said that." "Pretty much did. Said he had 1 foot in the grave and wouldn't be needing his money much longer." Vince turned to me with an assessing look. "You don't look like you're dying to me, Pops." "I'm not," I confirmed. "Heart valve replacement. Very routine these days." The second man, thinner, but with a scar running down one cheek, stepped forward. "We don't care about your health problems. We care about the $40,000 your son owes us, plus another 10 in interest that's accrued." $50,000 for gambling debts? I raised an eyebrow. "Plus another 30 to Antoine across town," Vince added helpfully. "And I hear he owes Milo at the track too." Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. "Guys, please, I just need a little more time." "Time's up." Vince cracked his knuckles meaningfully. "We need payment today, or we start taking it out in other ways." Tyler turned desperately to Amanda. "Your earrings. The ones I bought you last week." "What?" "No." She clutched her ears protectively. "And your necklace. The tennis bracelet too." "You can't be serious." But the look on his face made her falter. "You said those were gifts." "They are. Gifts you're going to give back. Right now." As this unfolded, I silently pressed the medical alert button I wore around my neck, which was connected to a security service. I'd told them earlier to send police rather than paramedics if I activated it. "I have some things upstairs," Tyler was telling Vince. "Watches, cufflinks, some collectible coins. They're worth at least 20,000. "My things," I corrected quietly. "Family heirlooms and gifts from my late wife." Tyler ignored me, leading Vince upstairs to my bedroom. The scarred man stayed behind, watching Amanda and me with bored detachment. Minutes later, they returned. Tyler carrying a wooden box containing my father's gold pocket watch, my grandfather's cufflinks, and several other irreplaceable family items. "This is just a down payment," Tyler explained, handing over the box. "I'll have the rest by the end of the week." "You better." Vince tucked the box under his arm. Because next time, we won't be so understanding. As he said this, police sirens wailed in the distance, rapidly growing louder. You called the cops? Tyler hissed at me, panic in his eyes. Medical alert, I explained, holding up the pendant. Automatic response. Vince and his companion exchanged alarmed looks. We're out of here. You've got 3 days, Tyler. Not a minute more. They hurried out the back door, just as patrol cars pulled up out front. 2 officers entered cautiously after I called for them to come in. Sir, we received an emergency alert from this address. False alarm, Tyler said quickly. My father accidentally pressed his medical button. Everything's fine. The older officer looked at me. Sir, is that correct? I met my son's pleading gaze, then turned to the officer. Not exactly. I pressed it because there were 2 men here threatening my son over gambling debts. Del, Tula protested. They've just left through the back, I continued. They took some of my valuables as payment for what my son owes them. The younger officer immediately headed to the back of the house, while his partner took down descriptions. After the police left, promising to look for Vince and his friend, but not sounding optimistic, Tyler rounded on me. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you have any idea what you've done? They'll come back, and next time they won't just take a few trinkets. Those trinkets were your grandparents' legacy, I said quietly. Items that were meant to stay in our family for generations. Who cares about that sentimental crap? We're talking about my safety. No, we're talking about the consequences of your actions finally catching up with you. I stood, feeling every one of my 68 years. This stops now, Tyler. The stealing, the lying, the manipulation. All of it. Or what? He sneered, his true nature fully revealed. Or I'll see you in court next Wednesday. And trust me, you won't like the outcome. As I turned to go upstairs, the older police officer returned, holding a business card. Mr. Moore, could I speak with you privately for a moment? In the kitchen, he handed me the card. Elder Abuse Prevention Unit. I've seen situations like this before, sir. If you're being taken advantage of by a family member, there are resources available. I took the card, thanking him quietly. As the officer left, I caught Tyler watching from the living room, his expression a mix of anger and fear. The battle lines were drawn. The confrontation had begun in earnest, and there would be no going back. The day of the guardianship hearing arrived cool and clear. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one I'd worn to sell my company 6 months earlier. Martin met me at the courthouse steps, briefcase in hand, looking grim but determined. Are you ready for this, Channing? He asked as we climbed the steps. It won't be easy hearing all this laid out in public. I'm ready, I assured him. Some truths need to be faced head-on. Inside, we found Sarah waiting by the courtroom doors with Bill Harrington and Frank from the bank. The support meant more than I could express. Tyler arrived 15 minutes later with Amanda on his arm. Both were expensively dressed. Tyler in a suit I recognized as new, purchased with my money, no doubt. He faltered momentarily when he saw Sarah, clearly not expecting her presence. What are you doing here? He demanded. You're supposed to be in Oregon, supporting our father, she replied coldly. Something you might try sometime. Before he could respond, the bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Eleanor Simmons, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, surveyed the assembled parties from behind wire-rimmed glasses. This is a hearing on petition for guardianship. Case number 87542, Tyler Moore, petitioning for guardianship of Channing Moore on grounds of mental incapacity. She looked between Tyler and me. I understand both parties are present? Tyler's attorney, a slick-looking young man in an expensive suit, stood. Yes, Your Honor. I'm Daniel Hargrove, representing the petitioner, Tyler Moore. Martin rose next. Martin Levinson for the respondent, Channing Moore, who contests this petition in its entirety. Judge Simmons nodded. Mr. Hargrove, please present your case. What followed was a character assassination disguised as concern. Tyler's attorney painted a picture of me as a once capable man now declining rapidly after surgery, making irrational financial decisions, becoming paranoid, and being unable to care for myself. Mr. Moore Sr. sold his construction business for a considerable sum earlier this year, Hargrove explained. Since his surgery, he has been making concerning financial choices, including large cash withdrawals and attempts to change his long-standing investment strategy. He frequently forgets conversations, becomes confused about simple matters, and has exhibited paranoid behavior, accusing family members of stealing from him. Tyler took the stand next, putting on a masterful performance of the concerned son. It started small, he testified, his voice cracking with practiced emotion, forgetting where he put things, repeating the same questions. After the surgery, it got much worse. He accused the mailman of stealing his magazines. He tried to drive himself to the store despite doctor's orders not to. Some days he doesn't recognize me at all. Tyler played the edited recordings he'd made, carefully spliced to make me sound confused and disoriented. He presented the testimony of 2 neighbors who'd seen little of me since my surgery, but had heard plenty from Tyler about my supposed decline. Finally, he played his trump card, calling Dr. Alan Richards to the stand, introduced as a consulting physician who had evaluated me. I'd never met the man. Dr. Richards testified solemnly that based on extensive review of medical records and first-hand reports, he believed I was suffering from significant cognitive impairment consistent with post-operative delirium and possibly early-stage dementia. Throughout all this, I sat calmly, watching Tyler spin his web of lies with practiced sincerity. The hurt went bone deep, but I focused on what was to come. When Tyler's attorney finished, Martin stood. "Your Honor, before I present our case, I'd like to request that all parties not yet called as witnesses be temporarily excluded from the courtroom." Judge Simmons granted the request. Amanda, looking confused, was escorted out along with several other potential witnesses. "Now," Martin began, "I'd like to call Channing Moore to the stand." I took the oath and sat in the witness chair, facing the judge directly. "Mr. Moore, how would you characterize your mental state following your recent heart surgery?" Martin asked. "Clear and intact," I replied firmly. "The surgery was successful, my recovery has proceeded according to schedule, and at no point have I experienced the confusion or disorientation my son has described. Yet your son has presented recordings of you sounding quite confused. Those recordings were deliberately edited. With the court's permission, I have the complete, unaltered versions that show my son's manipulation." I gestured to the evidence package Martin had prepared. For the next hour, I methodically dismantled Tyler's case. I presented bank records showing his unauthorized transfers, the forged power of attorney document, video evidence from my hidden cameras showing him searching my office and editing recordings, and medical reports from both my surgeon and Dr. Winters confirming my cognitive competence. Frank testified about Tyler's attempts to access my accounts and safe deposit box using forged documents. Dr. Winters described his evaluation finding no evidence of cognitive impairment, despite Tyler's claims to the contrary. Sarah took the stand next, describing how Tyler had systematically misled her about my condition to isolate me from family support. He told me Dad was declining rapidly, that it would upset him if I visited. He said Dad was becoming paranoid and that seeing me might trigger an episode. Her voice broke. I believed him because he was there every day, and I wasn't. I trusted my brother to tell me the truth about our father. Throughout all this, Tyler's face had progressed from confidence to concern to barely concealed panic. He whispered frantically to his attorney, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. The decisive moment came when Martin called our final witness, Amanda. She entered looking nervous, avoiding Tyler's gaze as she took the stand. "Miss Carter, you've been in a relationship with Tyler Moore for how long?" Martin asked. "About 6 months," she replied quietly. "And during that time, has Mr. Moore discussed his father's financial situation with you?" Amanda glanced at Tyler, who was subtly shaking his head. She took a deep breath. "Yes, extensively. Could you tell the court what he told you about his plans regarding his father's assets?" Tyler half rose from his seat, but his attorney pulled him back down. Amanda twisted her hands in her lap. He said his father was sitting on a fortune he didn't need anymore. That the old man, sorry, Mr. Moore, was practically on his deathbed after heart surgery and wouldn't be around much longer to enjoy it. Her voice grew stronger. He promised me trips, a new house, designer clothes, all from his inheritance that he said was coming any day. Did he specifically mention having his father declared incompetent? Yes. He said it would be easy, that lots of old people get confused after surgery, and all he had to do was document it and find a doctor willing to sign off. She looked directly at Tyler now. He said once he got guardianship, he'd move his father to the cheapest nursing home he could find and take control of everything. The courtroom fell silent. Tyler's face had gone white with shock at this betrayal. "Why are you telling us this now, Miss Carter?" Martin asked gently. "Because yesterday I found out he was planning to leave me once he got the money," she said, her voice bitter. "He needed me to back up his stories, to say I'd seen Mr. Moore acting confused. But once he paid off his gambling debts and got the money, he was going to disappear. I heard him on the phone with his real girlfriend, planning their escape to Mexico." Tyler exploded, rising to his feet. "You lying bitch? That's not true. Mr. Moore." Judge Simmons slammed her gavel. "Control yourself, or I'll have you removed." Martin had one final question. "Miss Carter, to your knowledge, has Channing Moore ever exhibited the confusion or memory problems that Tyler has described to this court?" "No," Amanda said firmly. "Never. Every time I've been around him, he's been completely normal. Sharp even. Tyler told me to play along with his stories." She looked at me directly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. I didn't realize how far he was planning to take this." By the time all testimony concluded, Judge Simmons looked both disturbed and resolved. She wasted no time delivering her ruling. "This court finds the petition for guardianship to be not only without merit, but predicated on deliberately falsified evidence and perjured testimony. The petition is dismissed with prejudice." She turned a stern gaze on Tyler. "Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of potential elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and perjury charges." She addressed me directly. "Mr. Moore, I strongly advise you to pursue a protective order. The evidence presented today suggests you may be at risk of continued financial exploitation and abuse." As the judge departed, Tyler sat frozen, the full impact of what had just occurred washing over him. His attorney was already packing his briefcase, avoiding eye contact. Two uniformed officers entered the courtroom, approaching Tyler. "Tyler Moore? We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of elder abuse, fraud, and grand theft." As they handcuffed my son and read him his rights, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness. This was my child, my flesh and blood, being led away in handcuffs for crimes committed against me. Despite everything he'd done, watching him being taken into custody was one of the most painful moments of my life. Sarah gripped my hand tightly as Tyler was escorted past us. He paused briefly, his eyes meeting mine for one raw moment. "Dad, he began. But whatever he meant to say died on his lips as the officers gently but firmly guided him forward. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by my daughter, my friends, and my attorney, I watched the patrol car carrying my son disappear into traffic. The victory felt hollow, but I knew it had been necessary. Sometimes the hardest choices are the only ones that lead to healing. 6 months passed before I visited Tyler in prison. The county jail where he was being held wasn't designed for comfort, with its institutional green walls and the constant echo of metal doors closing. Tyler looked different in his prison jumpsuit, thinner and somehow smaller than the son who had tried to steal my life. The cockiness had been replaced by a wary humility that seemed both foreign and fitting. "Thanks for coming," he said as we sat across from each other at a metal table. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either," I admitted. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we'd never said to each other. "I've been in therapy," Tyler finally offered, "twice a week, for the gambling and other issues." "Good. That's good. He fidgeted with the sleeve of his uniform. I want to say I'm sorry, but it feels inadequate. What I did to you, there's no excuse. Why, Tyler? The question had haunted me for months. Was it just about the money? He considered this seriously, perhaps for the first time. No, not just that. I think I've resented you for as long as I can remember. Your success, your certainty about everything. The way you always seemed disappointed in me. I was never disappointed in you. Concerned, yes, but never disappointed. Really? He looked genuinely surprised. It always felt like I could never measure up, like nothing I did was good enough. So eventually I stopped trying and just started taking what I thought I deserved. We talked for the full hour, not solving anything but perhaps beginning to understand. Tyler had been sentenced to 18 months for financial elder abuse, fraud, and forgery, with the possibility of early release for good behavior and completion of rehabilitation programs. The gambling counselor says I've been trying to self-destruct for years, Tyler confessed, using money and risk to fill some hole I couldn't name. I nodded, remembering his mother saying something similar years ago. In the months that followed, I established a structured routine. Sarah had moved her family to a town just 30 minutes away, close enough for regular visits but maintaining their independence. We had Sunday dinners together each week, rebuilding the family bonds that had frayed in recent years. Frank retired from the bank but remained a constant presence in my life. We fished together twice a week, rarely catching anything but enjoying the peaceful hours on the lake, talking about everything and nothing. Most of my funds had been recovered through legal proceedings. What couldn't be recovered, I considered the cost of a painful but necessary education. With Martin's help, I established a carefully structured trust for Tyler's eventual release, with provisions requiring continued addiction treatment and financial counseling. 3 months into Tyler's sentence, I began volunteering with an elder abuse prevention program at the local senior center. Sharing my experience helped others recognize warning signs I had initially missed. Transforming my pain into protection for others brought unexpected healing. Tyler's letters arrived regularly, each one a little more insightful than the last. He wrote about his addiction recovery, his growing understanding of the damage he'd caused, and his tentative hopes for the future. I answered each one honestly but with increasing warmth. Amanda had disappeared from Tyler's life, completely, though I'd made sure she wouldn't face charges in exchange for her testimony. Tyler seemed relieved rather than heartbroken by her absence. She wasn't real, he wrote in one letter. Nothing in my life was real then. I was playing a part and surrounding myself with props and other actors. Now I'm trying to figure out who I actually am without all that. As Tyler's release date approached, I renovated my home to include a separate apartment over the garage. Close enough for support but separate enough for independence. Sarah worried about my decision to help Tyler after everything that had happened. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" she asked during one of our Sunday dinners. "After what he did, nobody would blame you for cutting him off completely." "I'm sure," I told her. "Boundaries, not barriers. That's what I'm aiming for." My last prison visit before Tyler's release was different from all the others. He looked healthier, his eyes clear, his posture straighter. "I've been offered a job," he told me, obvious pride in his voice. "Nothing fancy, just maintenance work at a recovery center. But it's a start. Part of their second chance program for people in recovery." "That's excellent, Tyler. I want to do it right this time. Pay my own way. Build something real." He hesitated. "I know I have no right to ask for another chance with you and Sarah, but I'm hoping maybe someday. One day at a time," I said gently. "That's how we'll rebuild. Just like your recovery. One honest day at a time." The day Tyler was released, Sarah and I both went to meet him. The three of us stood awkwardly in the parking lot, the weight of the past heavy between us. "I don't know how to do this," Tyler admitted. "How to be a son and brother again after everything." "Neither do we," Sarah said. "But we're willing to try if you are." That evening, we had our first family dinner in over a year. The conversation was sometimes stilted, occasionally tense, but underneath ran a current of cautious hope. As we cleared the dishes together, Tyler paused, his expression serious. "I need you both to know something," he said quietly. "I understand now that there are no shortcuts in life. What happened between us? It showed me how empty I was, trying to take what I hadn't earned, trying to fill a void with things that never could." He looked at me directly. "Dad, losing your money was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to find myself instead." 2 years after that terrible day when I discovered Tyler photographing my credit cards before surgery, we sat together on my back porch, watching the sunset. Tyler had maintained his sobriety, held his job, and was slowly rebuilding his life. Trust was returning in small, careful increments. "You know what I've learned through all this?" I said as we rocked gently in the porch swing. "That the walls we build to protect ourselves can become our prisons if we're not careful." I was so focused on securing my financial future that I nearly lost what matters most. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. "And I was so focused on what I thought I deserved that I nearly destroyed everything that actually mattered." In the end, the greatest lesson from our painful journey wasn't about money at all. It was about the delicate balance between protection and connection, boundaries and belonging. I'd learned that you can guard your assets without hardening your heart, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who need our wisdom rather than our rejection. My son had tried to steal my life savings, and I had let him try, watching him fail miserably. But in that failure, we had both found something more valuable than money: the chance to rebuild a relationship based on truth rather than manipulation, on earning rather than taking, on the slow, patient work of genuine connection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and reds, I reflected that sometimes it takes nearly losing everything to understand what truly matters. And sometimes, the hardest battles yield the most meaningful victories. Have you ever had to balance forgiveness with protecting yourself from someone you love? It's one of life's most difficult challenges. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the complicated reality of family relationships. Your support helps this channel grow, so don't forget to share with others who might need to hear this message. Thank you for listening, and remember that even in our darkest moments, healing is always possible if we're brave enough to face the truth.